Greetings. This is going to be a rant. A rant against, I'm just going to say, auto insurance companies. And I have to put it that way because even though I'm kind of mad at my company, it turns out that it's not an exclusive thing. So let's go back to February 2019. Some of you who have been subscribed to the channel that long know that I had a car accident back in February 2019. I got hit on the back. It was a hit and run. Went into a spin, was able to keep mom and myself from really getting hurt or having even more damage on an icy road. Got us off the road. That day, my insurance company, Allstate, was perfect. On that day, if everything had ended right on that day, I would have proclaimed to the world, my insurance company is the best insurance company in the world. Everybody should be with Allstate. Then, a few days after that, and a little bit of time, I started to realize, okay, they're very good at calming people down and getting things done on the first day. After that, it's a little iffy. Not that they were bad, but, you know, the quality seemed to drop a little bit. Maybe my expectation was too high because on the first day, they were doing things before I even thought about it. And then after that, it just seemed like everything was kind of coming down a little bit slow and it wasn't happening the way it should have been happening. Many months later, I realized that I'd been having this pain in my shoulder. It was really bothering me. And I'd had it for maybe, well, by that time, probably at least 4 or 5 months. And it finally hit me that, you know, that was only like a couple of weeks after I had the car accident. So I called this guy up who I had talked to before, said, hey, is the medical thing still open? Because when you have a car accident, they open up a medical file in case you go to the doctor or you have to go to the hospital or whatever. And yeah, he said it's still open. They keep that open for about 6 months to a year. I said, okay, cool. Because I got this issue with my shoulder and I've had it for a bunch of months. I just never really thought about it equating, equaling the car accident. He says, well, let's get you going on this. So an appointment was set up for me to go see, I had to see my primary first, and then he had to recommend that I go see the orthopedic doctor, which meant I basically went from the second floor down to the first floor because they're in the same building. So I meet with the guy and he, sends me for an x-ray, and then I had to get an MRI. And he said, yeah, there's a little something there. You should probably have surgery on that. I said, I can't have surgery right now. I'm taking care of my mother. It was around the same time that I had gotten divorce papers. Just to throw that out there. It's just something else I had to deal with. And now it's just mom and myself. And I have someone else who could come a couple of times a week. But in general, it's just me. And I said, I really can't do it. There's got to be some other way. So first he said, okay, let's try some physical therapy. Let's just see what happens. So I start physical therapy. I don't really want to be there, but my thought was, okay, I'm going to do this physical therapy and maybe that's going to help things heal. Well, it turns out it doesn't work that way, but I didn't know that at the time. But I went to him, like 6 weeks later, and he said, we should go to cortisone shot route. Let's try that. Well, cortisone shot worked wonderful. I didn't feel anything. And around that same time, I got this letter from the insurance company saying that they wanted me to see some doctor that was representing them. So I had to go basically 3 minutes away from where I live. So it turned out to be really close. And I had to show up there and let them do whatever they were going to do. So I set that up. I go there this day. And this is obviously all before COVID. This is still back in 2019. So it's me and a whole bunch of people. And luckily I was one of the early people there. But we ended up sitting around for the longest time. Because it turns out that these group of doctors and some of their nurses aren't located just in the central New York area where I am. For instance, they go all over the state. So I guess like 4 days a week, all of them are driving to different places. And on this particular day where I had to meet them, they were coming from Rochester and they were an hour and a half late. But of course, they don't have anyone to call to tell you that. So we're all sitting out in our vehicles wondering when someone's going to show up. and then they eventually show up, and then before they start seeing anybody, they got to send someone to go get them food. Okay, I was irked. Everyone else is irked, but what do you do about it? So anyway, when it's my turn, I get to go in and I meet this doctor. And he asked me a couple of questions. And then he said, so I understand that they want you to have the surgery. Are you going to have the surgery? I said, no, I'm not going to have the surgery. He gave me a cortisone shot. It feels good. I'm taking care of my mother. I can't afford to take the surgery right now. He says, oh, okay. Well, then we're done. I said, really? Wait, that's it? He says, yes. 3.5 minutes. I was in there with him 3.5 minutes after waiting an hour and a half or more for them to show up. 3.5 minutes. Irked. You just messed up my time, but at least we're done with this. Then we move on and we get to November 2020. And I get a cortisone shot and I said, whoa, that hurts. And he said, you know, the more cortisone shots you get, the more that your tendons start to deteriorate. At a certain point, the cortisone shot doesn't work anymore. I said, okay, you know, you could have mentioned that before. I had no idea that was going to happen. And he had also never mentioned that cortisone would make the tendons deteriorate. You know, he could have told me that also, but I didn't bring that part up. He says, yeah. He says, you know, you're really going to need to get this surgery. Fine. So in March of this year, I got the surgery. I'm not going to go into all that. I did videos talking about all the issues I had to go through. And a week after I had surgery, Mom got sick, so I had to deal with that. And I'm not going to go into that right now either. There's a whole lot of videos that I've done on Mom's adventures in these stupid nursing homes and on my adventures trying to overcome the surgery. So here we are now, September. And 3 weeks ago, I get another letter from the insurance company saying they want me to meet with their physicians. Well, now at least I know, okay, you know, I don't know if these people are going to be on time or not, but I'm not going to rush over like I did the first time, because the first time I was there maybe half hour early, but like I said, they're only 3 minutes away, so I just walked around waiting for someone, and then walked, and then walked, and then walked. This time I just waited a little bit longer, and I get over there, and luckily the office was open this time. So I walked in, and the lady says, okay, I need you to go sit down because I got to finish processing this lady. Okay, privacy, it's healthcare. I understand that. That's my field. So I go sit down. Then she calls me over. And I had filled out this paperwork because the insurance company said you need to fill this stuff out before you go and take that with you. So I fill all this stuff out, and she says, oh, I can't use that. I said, what do you mean you can't use it? She says, no, well, we have to do some other stuff. I said, but the insurance company said I had to bring this. She says, but it doesn't work that way. I can't use that. I said, oh, Jesus. So she gives me this little pad, maybe twice the size of the smartphone. That's how little it was. She said, I need you to answer some questions that are on here. It's got its own internet service. I guess it's one of those things. It's just like a smartphone, only it's a little bigger. But you have to answer all these questions. So I go to answer the questions, and I'm thinking, okay, this isn't going to take long. It's probably going to be the stupid COVID questions that I have to answer multiple times when I go to different places. It asked me everything that happened about the accident back in 2019. It asked me what shoulder I had. Actually, it asked me what the problem was. I had to explain all this stuff. Had to answer this thing. It took between 15 and 18 minutes because sometimes after you answer the question, it added a bunch more, but you didn't know it did it until you got down to the bottom and hit next, and then it would say, oh, error, everything wasn't answered. Then you had to go back. This was really irritating. But, okay, 15 to 18 minutes. I have to admit, I was probably more sarcastic than I should have been, but I felt justified in being sarcastic because they should already know all this information. Or so I thought. I sit down, and a few other people are coming in, and this one guy comes in, and he's fussing about something, and then he starts telling about his insurance company. It turns out he's with Geico. Well, now I'm like, well, wait a minute. Then these folks don't just work for my insurance company. They're working for a bunch of insurance companies. So in other words, they must be independent, and all these insurance companies, come to them, and then they set a date where they can be in a certain place in the state, and they're representing them all. So I'm still thinking, well, okay, I'm a little irked. I'm not as irked as much anymore because I don't know who I'm seeing, and maybe they don't have all this information, but I didn't have to fill it out 2 years ago. I don't know why I have to do it now. And by the way, it's almost 2 years to the day, just so you know. So I sit down, other people are kind of sitting down, and we're just sitting there. And then I remembered, oh yes, they had to order food. So I guess some of them wanted to eat something before they saw anybody. There you go. And I gotta also admit that once I kind of relaxed a little bit, I said, wait a minute, they're playing some old 70s music that I hadn't thought of in decades, and I'm kind of enjoying this. A song will come and say, oh my God, they're playing that song. I haven't heard that one. Oh my God, another song. I haven't heard that. It's just a little bit of nostalgia. It just helped to take the edge off. So I'm the first person called. I said, okay, for once, something's going good. So I go around the corner. I go in the room. It's the same doctor from 2 years ago. So I sit down, and he's looking at the thing, and he looks at me. He says, I think I've seen you before. Yes, you did 2 years ago. Oh, okay. So he's looking at everything. So, he says, so you have the shoulder injury, right? He says, yes. Okay, I'm going to need you to pull up your sleeve. I'm going to need to take a look at it. Okay. So he asked me a couple other little questions. And then he comes over, he looks at my shoulder, and he just briefly looks at it. It was like he had to go see the scars from the surgery to prove that I had the surgery. Then he asked me to stand up, and he asked me to raise my arm. And I could raise it only so far, and then it was painful. He says, that still hurts? I said, yep, that's what we're working on in physical therapy. We're trying to get my mobility back and also increase my strength. And then he sits down, and he says, well, okay, that's it. We're done. I said, wait, what? He says, yep, we're done. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. So, once again, I've had to sit outside, luckily this time, not as much time outside in the car. This time, I had to do this whole test and everything else. There's other people sitting there, and I'm out of there in 3 minutes. And I'm wondering, what is all this about? I know that the insurance company gets the doctor's notes. I know the insurance company gets the physical therapy notes. Why did this guy have to come with all these different people? Maybe some of these other people they spent more time with, but 3 minutes and 3.5 minutes the first time? Because, I checked the time. Like, what? This is ridiculous. This is a waste of my time. It's got to be a waste of their time. And probably like last time, I'm not going to get any kind of letter telling me, okay, we're okaying more physical. I got nothing last time. I'm probably not going to get anything this time. Why do they do that? Do they do that only in New York State? Do they do that in other parts of the country? Are other people going through the same type of thing that we are, where you basically sit there for a long time, then you go in and see a doctor, and then you go? I'd really like to know. This is idiocy. This is just another waste of time. Luckily, I'm not paying for it, so at least I got that to be thankful for. Someone explain that to me. If you're in insurance, in auto insurance, and you handle, claims like this, please explain it. Anyway, I haven't ranted, well, at least in a few weeks, so y'all let me know what you think. My name is Mitch Mitchell. I hope you have a wonderful week and weekend.